afternoon. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Also, Catherine Berry will be participating via Zoom due to a medical situation, so she's able to participate. Thank you, Catherine.
All right, we have any changes to the minutes from March 25th?
Actually, the minutes have not been
So,
officially submitted, so
okay,
next month.
well, we can do that. The committee of two, Tony Woods and I approved. And we can move on to whole business, new construction, Sagmain LLC, 118 Sagmain Street.
Nick, could you, for the committee of two, talk about the property address? Mention that it was approved.
Did I mention the property address? Oh, sorry, 149 Seascape Lane was approved by a committee of two.
Okay.
Hello,
Hi.
my name is Ricardo Romo. I'm the architect for 118 Sagmain. Should I give a refresher of the previous meetings? Okay.
We would appreciate that, thank you.
So we are proposing a new, right now there is a one-story residence. We are proposing a new two-story residence of a square footage 5,664 square feet. When the FAR allows 6,000 for the property. But then we're adding a attached two-car garage, one story in the front of the house, and then on the back we're also adding a pool house. There will be a pool and a sunken tennis court on the back. The house meets all the setback requirements, so we didn't need to apply for a variance. But the house as it is right now sits 90 feet from the property line, from the front. And then you add a 25 foot to the curb, so the house is 115 feet from the street. The property at the front and on both sides has already existing mature trees that we are planning to keep. And then the voids in between, we're planning to add cryptom areas. And this was in an effort, one of the comments at the last meeting was that they wanted to see a rendering of the front and from the farm to the right side. And so just to show that how visible the house is. And we provided those, for example, that's a rendering from the side. It's, we're showing the deciduous trees in winter, but then the cryptom areas that we will plant, we would buy them already at like 16 to 20 feet high, but cryptom areas have never been that grows pretty big, pretty fast.
Yeah.
So in maybe a matter of 3 years, it'll be gigantic and quite beautiful, honestly. So the house it's basically pretty screened from any visible angle on the outside. Then I've also added some drawings, which are the sheets, the architectural drawings, a 100, 111, 110, sorry.
The neighboring homes.
No, so yeah, sorry. So can you go back to the previous image of the historic district outline? Down. So I also mapped the historic district. Just to clarify, we are 3 lots outside of the property. Across the street, we're closer, but on that side, we have basically 2 lots in between. So we are outside, obviously on one side we have the farm, on the other side we have a older home that is also completely screened from the street. And right across the street, we have a few larger homes. The older ones, smaller ones are very close to the street. But then you see the ones that have a decent setback from the street, those are larger homes. Per silo, they range from like 4,500 to 6,500 square feet. Then in terms of style, we started with a contemporary design. We were not sure how the board was going to perceive it, but then at the first meeting, we realized that they were going for that you wanted a more traditional house. So one of the comments was to break out the roof and instead of just making it one simple gable, to add more lines, which we did. And then the next comment that we received at the last meeting was, it wasn't a comment, but it was just a suggestion to make the house blend more with the area. So what we did in an effort to accomplish that is we have redesigned the windows and added more lights to them. So they definitely be more traditional. And we've also replaced the contemporary cladding design with a just traditional tongue and groove shiplap. It will be the same material as before, which is a beige stained wood that I have here with me, but it will be, I guess the application of the way it's presented, the wood into the house will be more of a traditional shiplap. So also the one-story garage, the front wall, I mean, we will plan English ivy. So basically that will be, as you're driving into the property, what you will see is basically just a green wall with 3 hornbeams in front of them. Obviously the hornbeams in the winter lose the leaves, but the ivy doesn't. So it will remain a green wall. Then another change we did in the last one was in order to reduce the amount of let me backtrack. So the properties across the street are actually on higher ground than the street. And then this one is slightly under, maybe a couple of feet down. But we're raising the house because of that, since we're gonna have water, we are raising the house 18 inches from the existing ground. But then we're dropping again, the pool house and the pool will be more at the same level of the existing contours. So we're trying to minimize the field that we need to do around this house. And also the tennis court per zoning of Saracona, the tennis court is sunken. So I believe 4 feet from existing topography. So that's pretty much a summary. I can answer any questions that you may want.
That was very helpful. It seems you really paid attention to all that we had requested from last month. I think if we can opine on the drawings now, does anyone have any comments on the current drawings?
I think that while it's not in the historic district, it's so sort of a main feature of the entry into Sagaponic, almost sort of like a welcome to Sagaponic. And I did notice one of the neighboring properties has a metal roof, has a similar roof pitch, but has cedar shake.
Yeah.
Personally, that would be a deal maker for me personally. I wonder if you've considered that. Even the base wall elements, if the protrusions couldn't be shingle, I understand that. But is that something maybe you've considered? We would achieve the same color naturally over a year or two.
It's something that it wouldn't be up to me, it would be up to my client. Yeah, and she has, my client's wife has pushed for a horizontal type of shiplet siding. So I wouldn't know how to answer that question without asking them first.
Okay. Emily or
I like the design generally, and I think that it feels kind of like I hate using this word, but modern barn. Just because it's overused and widely used, but I think you've made some of the changes that you've discussed. I'm still a little confused by that concrete sort of wall. But I know that that's, I mean, it's not really visible from the street.
It's not visible from the street, it's
Yeah.
only visible from the angle. It's not concrete really, it's clad in, we're gonna clad it in a porcelain, but looks like limestone. So the idea is that you have this wall, like on the right as you're walking into the property, and then you have this cantilevering pergola, let's say. So you have this a cantilever. So it's a bit of it's a contemporary feature
Yeah,
of the property, but it's
does it actually function in any way for the garage or no? That's just.
it's
I'm
about
just
more of the
curious.
garage, but but it's kind of the structure that holds the cantilever, the floating pergola
Right,
over it. It's not a roof, it's actually a pergola, but just to create some shade.
on the
they're
walkway.
walking in, yeah. And then also another thing is throughout the meetings that we've been coming, we also substantially reduced the amount of glass.
Right.
Thank
you.
Particularly
Okay,
second floor, yeah.
So we reduced on the back, we used to have much higher windows with transoms. We reduced the width of most of them, and also we eliminated all the transoms. So the height is like 2 feet less than what we need to be.
And just, remind me, is there a balcony on that?
So on the right side, there is a balcony. It's a glass railing, so you don't, that's
I
why
just don't see
it's
it.
hard to
Mhm.
see. On the left side, you don't have a balcony.
And the windows, the 3 windows. I know some of the other ones you had eliminated the protrusion, but there you.
Yeah, in the front, we eliminated the protrusions. In the back, we kept them. The reason for it we wanted to have like window seats in those rooms. So from the inside, it would be a nice feature to have in the layout of the house. While I understand that it's certainly a more contemporary feature than traditional, we thought it wouldn't be seen from the street. So we said, okay, let's keep them here, or we got rid of them in the front. And the balcony is basically that second floor on the right side of that image. That's the primary bedroom. So that's why we want to have a balcony there.
Mhm.
But it's like a 5-foot big balcony.
Thank you.
I think the design is beautiful. You've done a great job of
Thank you.
bringing in traditional elements and keeping it clean and feeling modern at the same time. I think the one thing that doesn't feel like Sagaponic, and I know it's a very modern leaning, and there are a lot of modern homes in Sagaponic, but we are in the historic corridor leading into that area, right at Pikes, and I feel the porcelain garage entry
Mhm.
pergola is maybe a little dissimilar to the feeling of the area
Mhm.
that your property is sitting on.
Okay.
And they're just wondering if there is another way you can kind of keep.
I think, my goal here is to get this
Yeah.
as approved. So we
Right.
would like to agree to whatever changes to get this house approved. So that's something that we could just remove the height of the massiveness of that wall and just make clarity like the rest of the garage, and then just have maybe, again, I like the idea of having ivy growing up
Me
over
too.
something. So maybe just turn that into a green wall. And I will still want to have some sort of pergola over it, but maybe by reducing the height of that wall and just making it match the rest of the garage, we would lower the scale of it, and I guess the importance. If that wall would suddenly feel less important, it would just be
It still live the
one side of the
same,
garage, yeah.
and the approach would be the same for the,
The approach will be the same, and I definitely would like to have a pergola over it, but I think I can agree to lower the scale of that wall. So it doesn't seem like, it doesn't look like
An embellishment.
a standalone
Yeah.
wall. So it feels more integrated to the house.
That would be, I think that would help speed the process up with everyone.
I think so too. I'd like to see what that looks like, of course.
Right. Any other comments from anybody? I don't have any other comments. If anyone else has anything to say, let me know.
No, I think that'd be pretty, yeah.
If you have any questions, any clarifications you need?
No, I mean, I think I guess my question will be, if I make this change, do we have a chance of maybe the next meeting getting approved? Or
Absolutely,
Obviously,
absolutely.
once you see the images, if it's something that you like.
Yes,
Yeah,
we're
okay.
so close.
Okay.
Promise. We don't want to hold anything up for
Yeah,
anybody.
okay, no, because I mean, you know, as an architect, I obviously wanna do something that looks beautiful, but also
It's hard.
get it approved.
It's hard. I know, it's so hard.
So,
All right, great. Well, why don't we adjourn? And just as long as we're clear, we're gonna ask the client for maybe some cedar shingle incorporation, if that will fly, and then to reduce the pergola wall and lower the scale of
Okay.
that.
okay, so, okay,
What's our next date?
It is August 26th.
Thank you for considering.
thank you.
The motions?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second it. All in favor?
Hi.
Okay.
Thank you. Now, nobody's gonna be here for the next application because really the only requirement was for you to do a site visit there. So today would be the approval of that.
Is it
Unless
52?
there's a problem.
This
Do
would
you
be,
want to talk about the register on the roof?
Is it 6:52?
Yes.
Yeah, I think with
I have this.
site visit, we were just supposed to approve it after that.
No, I think it was suggested that we were gonna extend it, but then we were gonna.
Yeah, we would like to discuss
Okay, sure.
two items, the greenhouse and the, not cupola necessarily, but the register on top of the building.
So, no, nobody.
find someone who's talking.
basically, both those things are virtually without precedent. So we have to maybe,
We have to- Is there a way we can pull it up on Zoom and just talk about the issues we were having with it and then?
I think they really should be here for
So
that
we
if
should
they're not
adjourn.
gonna approve it, because they were left with it was gonna be approved after the site visit.
no, that's,
So
and
we can do
then
it.
Tom and I went to look at it.
Wait.
There was a dormer window overlooking the schoolhouse, but I don't think was enough to stop it.
I think it's an important piece of property that I would really like to see again, and I'm hoping that we need to adjourn it and request that they come back
I think we have to
next
adjourn.
month. I don't know if anybody, if you wanted to call a committee of two, if they're in agree or something
We
like
can't do
that.
committee two on historic.
There we go, okay,
You know,
so,
waiting to, I went to see if Miss Weldy, the owner, was here, but she's not here either. So, okay,
okay, I apologize, I didn't realize something on the agenda that they wouldn't be here.
I told them they didn't have to
Okay.
be because they were gonna be approved, but
Okay.
my apologies. So you need to do a motion to adjourn.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn so that we can discuss the register design and the greenhouse in the back for next month. I'd like to make a motion.
Second.
All in
Aye.
favor?
If they're coming back, can we give them items that we might want to discuss?
Greenhouse.
Yeah,
Um,
basically
using
a
capital.
more specific lighting schedule in the greenhouse, so it's.
Do you want me to explain the concerns?
So we'll say greenhouse.
The
and,
greenhouse, mainly the lighting of it, if there will be over winter seedling lighting. And the register,
You're talking about the artist studio.
yes, which has windows on it, and I think the references they gave. What's next door in the schoolhouse has shutters, not a window.
And they also mentioned at that last meeting that it wasn't gonna be used in the evening because it's an artist studio.
I
Just,
think there is no way to really say how they're gonna use it in the end, you know? It's, and I think also the windows inside the register are not really, it's like a look, it's more of like a lookout than it is
But we should double check this ceiling
something that
heights.
goes on a barn to let hot air out, you know?
the ceiling heights, Tony, and
Maybe
then
we should double check the ceiling heights to see if they actually could look, maybe the cupola starts at 10 feet, but they couldn't get up there.
I'll ask. Thank you.
But if they did a louver and glass behind it, that's, doesn't really affect the view of our view, so they needed that for heat protection or something.
Maggie Bear,
Yes, please.
99 Fairfield Pond Lane.
Afternoon, members of the board. Ed Ahrb from Renew Properties, project manager for 99 Fairfield Pond. On behalf of the owner, Daniel Lewis, and with me is Ann Sherry, who's the project architect. Hopefully we can clarify any issues that you guys had last night. We've kind of, month rather, we kind of redid some of the renderings so that they more easily match the elevations. And hopefully we can get your concurrence on this. So the idea here is we're looking to do three fairly, modest renovations to the house. One is to enclose underneath an existing second floor deck to create a screened porch, which is on the right side of the first floor, as you can see over there. As I said, the deck above it exists.
Please, I got. My apologies.
Sorry, we have printouts, I just wanna make sure everybody has a copy,
Oh.
as well as what's on the screen, to take a look through. You were dutifully taking notes. You were taking notes. You got a lot to do.
Thanks for saving.
Right, sorry to interrupt you.
Taking this.
Oh, I think, is there, where are those plans, the color drawings? Do we have those here?
Yeah, these are.
Oh, in the back, got
Right,
this,
right, right.
thank you.
So this is the eastern elevation of the house, which faces a farm field. The northern and western and southern property lines are very heavily. There's very heavy vegetation on those three sides. So the house is actually not particularly visible from Fairfield Pond Lane. This is between Daniels and Hedges Lanes. This is the north side, which is the second elevation that is affected by our request for the screened porch. So the three things again are the screened porch, glass railings to replace existing wooden railings on the second floor, and some new, more modern glazing, replacing some sort of dysfunctional outswing French doors with sliders. Okay, so if we can go to the elevations. Right, so we included some floor plans just to kind of orient you to where these changes are being made. You can see these better, I'm sure, on your printout. Where we've noted the sliding glass doors that are replacing the existing French doors. You can see the location of the screened porch. And if you flip to the second floor plan, the next page. Oh, somewhere, well, in your printout, there is a second floor plan as well, which shows the locations of some additional glazing and the glass railing replacement. Okay. There we go. All right, I think that the story is really in the elevations though, which is the next page. So what we have here is the existing eastern elevation. And at the bottom and above it is the proposed elevation. And you can see we're sort of, simplifying the exterior, but losing a lot of early 2000s details, right? Simplifying, even though we're reducing the glazing overall, really opening up the view for the homeowner to the farm field with with different kinds of sliding door glazing instead of the very heavily emollient ones below. Okay. So that is the eastern elevation. We can move to the next one. So this is the northern elevation. And you can see, similar kind of idea is that we're simplifying, again, some of these existing arts and craftsy looking French doors with something that's much simpler and more modern. So those are the two elevations that are really effective here by these renovations. And on the following page, we have our illumination study for the two elevations. This is again eastern elevation. So we are reducing the glazing area by basically 1% with these new windows. Okay, so it's slightly less, right? Although to us it sort of looks like, wow, that looks like a lot less, but it isn't actually. So that's what the nighttime view looks like for the eastern side that faces the farm field. And this is a similar study for the northern side, which faces a conservation easement that's very heavily vegetated between it and the neighboring house to the north. And here we're also reducing the glazing by 1%. Similar number. And yeah, so that's what we have. Kind of brings us back to the two renderings of what this would look like as completed. So we're open to any questions that you have about what it is that we're doing.
I had one, looking at the north left side elevation. So as you see are the more traditional windows there. Even where you see the traditional windows and then on the lower level, the more modern windows, it looks sort of like a traditional house with an addition put on it. And I feel like in the master bedroom glass doors, with that large modern window, it sort of washes out the 2/1s that are traditional that you sort of kept. Would you be amenable to adding panels or mullions to the master bedroom door to have it more of that sort of traditional treatment?
Can we go to that elevation, Abby? Or to that, actually to the rendering of that side?
The nighttime might be the most effective.
Oh, okay. Right, there we go.
So the upper left, then
Right.
you sort of have a more glass, more modern below, which would almost definitely be more hidden by landscaping and everything else. Then upstairs, the whole area might sort of read a little more in that traditional vernacular.
Right, I see what you're saying, yeah. The owner's sort of remit to us was, let's make this more modern, let's make it, cleaner.
Yeah.
He's not wanting to make it a modern house, but he really wants to kind of clean it up. But I think that's something that we could think about and ask him.
Are you talking about the second floor on the right?
Second floor, the far right, yeah.
Yeah, master bedroom, yeah. Okay, that's something we'll have to take back to the homeowner.
Yeah.
Does anyone else? Alicia, have anything?
I'm just wondering, is there any thoughts, like, do you mean take it back to the sort of craftsman type of divisions, or?
Maybe not craftsman, but more like the northwest view. The north left side elevation.
Series of double ones?
Yeah, almost those, but they're French door in that style, so it wouldn't really be craftsman, would more be sort of
The
the boring.
Traditionally provided light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, trying to achieve sort of a main house that would fit the vernacular of Sagaponic with the other elements looking like it might be more of an addition or something.
Okay. But you're fine with the undivided windows on the first.
On the first floor, yeah, I think that it's the way to get what you want, but then, you know, people who feel like they want to look up at your house.
All right, we will consider that and we'll talk to the homeowner about it. Yeah.
Can I ask a question about that? Sorry. So on the left side, on the upper, because I can't really tell because there's a,
Right, there's a roof there. It is a little obscure.
but is it the same
It's the same.
size as the ones on the right?
It is, yeah.
Because in the,
Or is it? Is it the same?
it looks smaller in,
I need more explanation of what we're talking about, sorry.
The guest room on the second floor that faces.
Yes, that is smaller since it's, I believe. 6 by 8, 6.
like it looks smaller in the,
It is smaller than the
Plan.
master bedroom.
right.
Yeah.
But in the but
it
in the
is.
rendering, it looks the same, just blocked, but I just don't know.
Yeah,
See
it's
what I mean?
definitely,
It's more
are you looking at the
It looks
elevation?
more narrow here, but in the actual rendering, I mean, you can't tell it's blocked, but it looks like it's as wide. I'm just curious. Just to Tony's point, so if this one is gonna be potentially looking more consistent with the uppers,
Mhm.
will this be out of place or what? I mean, maybe you don't see it, but.
Well, that's a good point. They're
Yeah, the night's a bit of a cheat angle, it's not directly. it's like
yeah, well,
2 degrees.
it's true. I mean, there are different perspectives where you might look at the house and observe that it was different. Yeah, I mean, you don't see as much in this straight on elevation, but yeah. If you're
I
making,
think if you were to change the ones on the right, then yeah, you change the ones on the left as well.
What I think it would
is
just be
that?
odd, I mean, not to, I'm not commenting on your,
Mhm.
what is that window looking at from the guest bedroom?
That's fine.
It's a set of doors, it's towards the back, is that too?
yeah, it's heading out,
It's got
it's
that
looking out to
roof
the
in front
farm
of it,
field.
But there's the piece in front of it.
Right.
And so it looks across like the opposite of the people.
So that's like a little
So is it
terrace,
really blocked?
It's like a
or
block.
is it-
Yeah, it is blocked.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
there's a pitch dropped a bit, so you can, it's a little deck access behind it.
yes, there's decking.
Right,
Yeah, if you
so
look at the floor plan, you'll see how
Oh, you
that.
can do the back, yeah.
Yeah,
we don't have the rendering of the other sides, the sides of the house, we just have the front and back.
we have,
Like, I'm
the
just
two that are
gonna-
affected here, which are the back and the north side.
So here we go, bedrooms. Existing roof bedrooms.
Right, can you go to the other view, the reflective of the.
You feel like I need to see the other side.
Not the other side, but she shows from the one, the right, the left-hand side views, it shows.
So that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, right, is there actually a larger space between that? Is that this?
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. I can see where you're looking, yeah.
It's
If you
funny,
look
because they
at
look
the-
like they're on the same plane, but they're not. In the. You can kind of see it here.
Maybe if we go to the north, the north rendering, I think we can see it a bit more clearly. Right, do you see there's this sort of gap between
Oh, there we go.
right, you see there's the dormered space all the way to the left, and then there's the gap, that is that deck, right?
Okay, so. It does seem like they should really match, depending on how.
Well, they're not, the size can't
Right.
match it up.
The size, no,
Yeah.
sorry, I mean,
The divisions.
but. It would just make.
Okay. Duly noted, thank you. Any other comments that we need to?
Emily, do you have any thoughts to share?
No, I think they've voiced everything I was thinking.
All right, well, I don't feel we need to wait a full month. Is anyone on board with a committee of two for
This
this?
is outside the historic district, right?
Yeah.
Can we make this committee of two, so it doesn't need to be that long, just to address this window?
Okay.
Right.
So how does that work? We would need to,
If the client's saying no, it's okay too.
Your item
Based on the
is-
acceptance of
Then
swing.
we bring it back.
Two members of the board may review it.
Yeah.
get back to us, okay.
So I guess if she's willing to change the window or windows, if you think that's more necessary, it'd be passed with a committee of two. If they want to discuss it further, it's at another time.
So if there's still a discussion, that happens again here at the next meeting.
If she wants to make her case about the existing modern windows.
All right. Good. Thanks for your
As
time.
currently proposed.
I'd like to make a motion to move this to the committee of two.
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Sorry. Anisha, is there a specific request on the left to make sure they're the same size, or you just wanted to have the rendering reflect that it was?
I believe they're not the same
Right,
size.
the rendering looks like it is.
I think it's ones in front that they're almost,
Right.
yeah.
I'm not really opposed to them being, well,
Because
they're
we
the
guessed
same
that they're
size,
smaller.
so it would seem that they are, I just want to confirm, this
Yeah.
happened last time, like,
Okay, what do we want to?
just confirming the actual size. Because I wasn't sure we were clear. And then somebody's point was about the right.
Yeah.
I thought it was sense to let them speak, to just say
Yeah, yeah,
architectural,
yeah,
no matter what size they are,
yeah, I think so.
right?
As I said, I think they'd naturally do that.
Right, otherwise it would be like. Asymmetrical.
Exactly, yeah.
We are going to pause on 35 Potato Road. We're gonna move to 154 Seascape Lane.
Yes, please.
Oh, the demo and the construction.
That's just hold, we're just holding.
Okay.
Only people need to come.
Oh.
Just. Oh, gotcha.
And we're up to 124. Some samples here. Where third meeting.
Okay.
Excuse me.
David, this much for a laptop?
I can use, I can do that, and I'll check for them.
Speaking of them, yeah, I think so.
I know.
I thought you were bringing a laptop.
Beautiful.
Next, we could
A
do
lot at
that.
once.
Let's do that, and then this we move on to that.
Yeah, it's a lot of. Also the dead end, or, you know, it's a cul-de-sac, so then it's like truck.
This,
And then the street, saying has a lot of different ones, and it's not a through street, so it's like, you know what I mean? But this is there. Oh, it's something else. Is there anything?
It's public record.
Yeah,
We're waiting for somebody to join.
he's gonna do it from his computer. He's gonna present.
I mean, I'll just go off of yours, that's all right, I don't need to name this time.
Of course.
If you can, oh, yeah. Let's see, do it this way. No, you may remember this presentation from like back in May, we had a demo permit, this is 124 Seascape Lane. And since that, we've received zoning board approval for variances relating to the existing site constraints. Maybe we can just run through a few. So I'm sure you're all familiar with Seascape Lanes. Our property is here. Well, you can do Control L and make it full screen. It's a little bit easier to read. You can also cycle through these. Basically, Seascape Lane is on the west side between existing panel and Seascape Lane. But these lines a little bit off. This one's better. Here you can see sort of a Google Earth image of the property. It's an area of moderate wave damage, or wave action, excuse me, and therefore a new house will need to be raised for FEMA requirements. In these images here, you see some wintertime images taken from the drone of the adjacent property, showing its location, proximity to Sagapon Pond, and you see Sagapon Beach in the distance. This is our property with the blue car in the front and right. That's the house that's scheduled for demolition. As you can see, it's practically just off that point. As you can see, it's still closer towards the water and the drainage system. From these slides, you'll see some context of the neighborhood. And the adjacent neighbors here to the south, as you'll see that this house to the south is modern, and the house across the street is more shingle style, which we cycle through. There's two modern houses across the street. If we hold here for a sec, one of the things that obviously you're aware of, we see the front of the house across the street. I think is a base Massey house. There's a raised bulkhead for a wastewater treatment. We'll have a similar situation in our property wall. And also you can see these are ultra modern houses, which is typical of what new homes in this location are being built as. If we cycle again, thank you. Here are the houses from the lower vantage point across the street. It's a summertime image, but it shows that the house directly across the shingle style, and on the right, those are the two houses we just saw from the front, which are two modern houses. And again, built to the maximum flat roof, two-story homes, great for FEMA. So, next one, please, thanks. So, this is the house north of our property, which is approximately 400 feet from our lot. As you can see, there is a swath of overgrown wetlands on their property, lower in the foreground of this picture. And here are some just more images just to familiarize yourself with Seascape Lane and wintertime images. You can see it's a relatively level lot, some rising in the middle, but basically it's flat all the way through for the most part. And it also suffers a little bit because of that in the district. So this slide 17, this is an early winter image taken from the bridge on Bridge Lane, looking over Smith's Corner Preserve. As our property, we need to comply with the current zoning height. We're looking at this to see how visible the house would be from this map. This is one of the only map. I'm sorry, we can go back. This is approximately 1,800 feet from the new house, and based on a little zoom in, if you see in the right-hand side of the zoom in, you see that that's the house to the south. Sort of see the edge of the cantilever Our house would be to the left, but again, we don't think it's gonna be visible, like maybe just minimally visible from that vantage point. And again, as people travel along Bridge Lane, it would be momentary if you want. The next image is taken from Sag Main beach. And again, this is across Sagaponic Pond, and we've highlighted the area which the house would be. Again, for reference, the house in the zoomed in portion is the house to our south. Based on what you'll see in a minute, where we're moving the house back on the lot to comply with wetlands, we're actually going to be behind that house. So again, we don't think that our house is going to be visible from Sag Main Beach because of that. Next slide, please. Here's existing house on the lot, just for reference. As you can see, maybe kind of read it here, but we landed A11 and 12 are the elevation heights for the lot, which we'll reference a little bit later in the heights. And the next slide is our approved site survey, which includes the wastewater treatment and the wetland setback. We have a better image of this coming in. This image here hopefully clarifies a little bit further, our organization of the lot. It's a smaller lot, but we're definitely constrained, and we've gone through wetlands process, burning process. Essentially, what we're seeing here is what's the darker green is a wetlands area. We have a little bit of relief from the light green, lime green. There is a dashed line near where the upland consistent house is. That's 75-foot wetlands buffer. So you can see we're as tight as we can against that. The front yard is a 60-foot setback from the property line. And that was something we would have approved with the DBA. And predominantly the front yard is the DOH approved wastewater treatment. The wastewater treatment you'll see in some later images is we've kept the bulkhead as low as possible. It goes from basically 3 feet at the front to 5 feet at the back, so it slopes up a little bit. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So the next slides are just some site sections. So we can talk about heights of the house, and I want to describe the constraints we're dealing with. Again, as I mentioned, A12 is our baseline elevation, because that's the most restrictive. So we will require 2-foot buffer plus another foot for construction. So our start elevation for the house is 15 feet above sea level. For zoning, our parapet is 37. So we have essentially 22-foot centers in which to build a 2-story property. And consequently, our floor heights are okay, but as high as they can be, 10.6 on the ground floor and 9.6 for second. So this is basically these height stipulations. Front and rear yard constraints have formed our buildable area which we present today. And as we move on, maybe to this slide, I'd just like to say, we try to balance with this property as an overview every aspect of the municipal constraints with our simple program for a relatively modest home. And I hope that you'll agree that we've come up with something interesting and successful, which is in keeping with new modern homes for the East End of Long Island. I think that this is a good organization slide just to explain again what's happening with the house. The portion that's white is essentially 2-story component, and the lower levels that are kind of gray in this image are decked areas, and they're a single story. So it's a 5,200 square foot house. It's sort of L-shaped, as you can see. with the pool being sort of protected, facing west and facing north. And that the portion of the L that's extending beyond the pool is actually a screened-in porch. Maybe we can also see, yes, so here, again, back to the concept of bulkhead, which I'm sure you're familiar with. This is a board form concrete bulkhead that we're going to be planting with native grasses, but essentially it's in keeping what the neighbors have done in these similar situations. Let's see. So basically, in these renderings, what we try to do is in both these images from the 3/4 views, you see that even though the house is, the majority is 2 stories, it reads because of the setbacks that we've used at the 2nd floor, it reads more like a 1-story with a clear story above. And that was purposeful, try and mitigate the notion of a 2-story property, again, raised for FEMA, which is, as you can see from the neighbors, can be quite imposing on the neighborhood. The main volume, as you can see here, is called a wooden band. It's punctuated by 5 openings at the front, the center of which is the front door of the property. These are very deep revealed openings, and they actually have window boxes at the bottom. And the idea here is that it's permeable, but it's very solid. And then above you have this clear story, which as you see in the later renderings will, in the evening time renderings will give us like glow at the top of the house. But again, there are louvered screens. As we turn the corner, this is basically from the southern property. Again, we've deleted the hedges that are on the neighboring properties line here. We're looking directly at the south elevation of the property. This wooden band that was the punctuated item on the front turns the corner here, and you can see it's separated out into 2 different blocks. On the right is the main habitable house, and on the left is the back of the screened-in porch, which overlooks the deck. There's a space between the 2, and that becomes a staircase going up to the deck. And also because there are upper terraces, we have a bridge element, which is, again has some planting. And there's a bridge element at the lower level as well, which connects the living room, which is on the right, to the screened-in porch. So screened-in porch is separate. This is the view of the north of the house, which is kind of a little bit more of the inaccessible business side, if you want, in terms of mechanicals. And it's, familiar with the site. If you remember the site plan, it's a little bit closer to the property line on this side. We did that intentionally because the neighbor is very far away on that side, and it's very protected by a large area of wetlands. So that side is basically master terrace, small viewing terrace on the upper level, and then small windows and the deck on the right. There's an opening which you see on this rendering here on the left. In that window also sort of creates a view corridor. So this is the west elevation. We'll stay here for a second. As you can see, the house is these walls, the screened-in porch either side creates some privacy for the deck area. And it's something that's important to us, but essentially the western portion opens up significantly to the view corridors. So this side, the architecture changes a little bit from more similar to the clear story. So it introduces like a vocabulary post and beam grid in the back of the house, which is in contrast to the volumetric punctuated wooden band. This grid becomes an alternative organizing element for new windows, screen louvers, and infill panels. And the same quay wood, which we have a sample of here, is used, but it's just detailed, not in siding, but in solid material. So the wood that we've left out here, the black wood, is Nicoya, which I'm sure you've seen before in these presentations, thermally modified siding, and it's made by Delta Millwork. And the gray wood is the wood that we're proposing to use for the deck, which is the deck and the terraces. The other materials we have here, here's a chimney, 2 chimneys, one for the outdoor porch, where it's going to be an open fireplace, and one for the house. And that there's a deck material there, which is going to be cladding that. And there's a piece of zinc there as well, which is just a reference point for our flashing, and the glass, which is a solar low E glass, and some glass, which would be the handrails, guardrails, and the low iron, 1/2 inch thick handrail. So just in terms of what we're looking at here in terms of program, on the top left, on the upper floor, is the first 3 windows of the primary bedroom, and the next 2 windows going along are 2 separate bedrooms. There's 3 bedrooms on the second floor. On the lower level, there's a guest room on the far left, and then in the center section of the house, we have a kitchen dining combination. So opening out onto the deck, same level. And obviously, as I described before, the screened-in porch, which sits separate from the main house, connected by bridge. And the living room was actually on the far side of the screened-in porch, only facing the south and the east of the park. And we actually, the next slide would show maybe not. There is like the presentation might not be the most recent one, but we're going to talk a little bit about glazing analysis. The property, as you can see in these drawings here, has obviously the majority, very clear with the yellow, majority of glazing at the highest level of glazing is on the west facade, facing basically open wetlands. And that's in the top left. The glazing on that floor is, that elevation is under 30%, it's 29.7%. The area that's sort of orange there, we put that in as a separate, because it's a screened-in porch, just to highlight it, that will be an area that would give some admittance, but it's not going to be the same as the habitable space if you want. It is obviously habitable in its own way, but it's year-round, so interior space that can be highly lit. The east elevation, which is the next one with the 5 square openings, has a much lower percentage. That's about 18%. So again, even though this is a modern house, it sort of tracks perhaps a little bit more glazing wise with a more traditional home. The north facade, which is the next one, 17.3, and the south facade, which again has a little screened-in porch area on the left, which is orange with the 2 windows on the right. Again, punch deep are approximately looking at it here, south elevation at 8.5%. So overall, the house, just in terms of light emittance, if we add all the facades up together, we're tracking around 20% in terms of actual glow light flow.
Is the orange portion, the screened-in porch, included in those calculations?
We have noted it here that the orange, if you add the screened-in porch to the glazing on the west facade, it brings it up to 35.5, I believe, percent. And on the right, it brings it up. It says glass plus screen is 13.7% on the south side, and then there's a little extra elevation on the right, which is a sort of section for the house looking at the screen-in porch across the pool, and that is just all screen-in porch And that's of that facade, it's like 34 of those percent.
In which facade is that?
It's partial north elevation. So it's a facade that's, because it's protected by the wing wall, it's not going to be really visible from any great distance, but it is an area, so we've highlighted it. It's right underneath where the picture in picture is.
And then the second floor of the west elevation, how far are the windows set back from sort of the facade wall?
They're relatively close. There's a post with a grid that's 8 by 8, and that sits in front. It actually is a separate structure.
Oh, okay.
So it's got a little bit of a grid on the top of the facade, and then that's the same post being their story at the front. So it's the idea is that it's a very separate one wrapped by this volume of wood, but they're essentially within the exterior wall, which is maybe a 12-inch wall, so they're going to be like back 4 inches.
Okay.
And then there's a slatted guardrail in front of the slider to the point of left, and then also there's slatted components in the top of that, in the top of the that grid.
Yeah.
And you will see that at nighttime as well. It's easier by the next slides. So we try to do this with depth. You can understand that a black house can sometimes be a little bit difficult to render at night. So we've tried to balance this, but basically this is the view from the neighbors across Seascape Lane at our property. As you can see, and I probably didn't mention this, but the bulkhead helps these when raising a house for FEMA. The scale of the house, especially with a 6-foot setback off the street, we're very conscious of not having an imposing vertical wall to the street. So the bulkhead actually helps us a little bit by mitigating that and having berming up the bulkhead, the top of the bulkhead, instead of keeping the wall consistent height. We've sort of emulated a little bit of a natural mound and with grasses. Maybe sort of imitating a dune of sorts, but because of where we are. So just a reference, we're not putting sand or anything, but like it's that sort of form, and it helps a house read more like a 1-story house with a clear story as opposed to a vertical facade of 2 stories. And again, here you'll see that we've spent a lot of time working with the lighting designers. We actually put the actual lights in the model to try and really emulate what it was going to look like. So most of our lighting in the house is architectural, it's recessed, it's code lights, and we have materials that are generally, obviously we're showing quite cheap rock in certain areas just to be honest about this, but we do have wood finishes inside as well. But we have wood ceilings on the corridor on the 2nd floor, which will be lit and glow, and also wood ceilings on the corridor inside from the house. Again, warm light down. At the for the most part, in fact, everywhere we're doing step lights and bollards for lighting, so there's nothing shining up the night sky. And as you can see here, it's sort of an effect of these deep reveals on these windows facing east, even though they're lit at the top, you can see some little bit of light hitting the sides of the reveals. Because the building is black, it's really not going to be a bright building. It also, I think, the black, not to push this too hard, but it does tend to make things look a little bit smaller. So black house, black suit or whatever, will be slimming. So it does have that effect, which is nice, but it also makes the house less actually wearing black. So it does make the house not bright. So this is obviously the 3/4 view. Jump maybe to the next one. This is the view opposite. The background, you see those black squares, those are the houses to the south. We haven't put their glass or their windows in, but just in terms of scale. They're straight up, we were like setting back. We have the houses on the shoulder and, you know, in a manner to try and like solve this issue. It's very, imagine if we had, you know, if we'd gone straight up, it would be a lot more imposing. Let's see, so we can pop these ones. So again, because the house is raised and basically steel columns, and we have slatted enclosure around that, we're putting lights underneath that soffit, which light the pathway around the house. To the right, also the entrance stair, that's lit with step lights. And the parking area itself is lit with bollards forward. So again, that's the same image as before. Here we see the view in to the north, upper level is primary bedroom, glass handrail. The lower level or two, you know, guest room, right, down in the guest room, which is again, very wood inside, so they're a little bit darker and moodier. And on the right and the upper left, wherever you see that's actually a path from the primary bedroom. And the wall is higher there for the privacy. This is just showing, sorry if you could pop back one more, thanks. That's a square opening looking into the deck. Just a little outdoor kitchen behind that wall, and a pool area, and then you're looking to the distance for that hole at the screen in the porch. And we will be putting it free in front of that opening, which is the next slide, which shows that, you know, we're doing this. So, and then I think the last image from the nighttime is the west view, probably the most, you know, critical, I think, from your point of view, I would imagine. And here you'll see that we have sconces in the back of the house, which are down only, which light the deck area. We have bollards, a few bollards on the deck itself, just for safety. And apart from that, the pool itself is going to have a dark finish. So even though it's lit, it won't be a large bright blue rectangle. And again, like the houses, we've worked really hard, especially, you know, inside, making sure that we don't have any lights shining out of the property. Even the corridors behind that brick wall, we have the cove light in the cove over. We don't want any light shining on the windows, so we get the inside reflections. This is, I probably should have mentioned it before, there's a very large cherry tree in the rear yard that you know, we're planning to keep, and it's very mature and it's very beautiful. And we have that out in this rendering, so it actually will sit in front of the screen porch. The next one, we put it in just for reference point, because it will affect how this house is going to be seen from a distance.
Are you keeping the evergreen tree there?
We're not, we can't keep it.
It's pretty sick.
It's sick and it's also in our,
Oh, it's in the
way.
it's in the water.
It's in the house area.
Oh, it is, okay.
Yeah, because we had to pull the house back so far in the lot off the wetlands.
Oh, yeah.
Like this tree is amazing, but we're
Stunning,
still
yeah.
going to keep it. And yeah, and, you know, the back of the garden is going to be very wild and very, you know, fantastic. And then the deck itself is this really cool. But it really is, as you can see from the full plan. So we did a lot of programming in this lot, but I think it's very successful in the sense of the house itself, even though it's not that giant house for you.
Townhouse lot,
House,
yeah, within your townhouse lot, sort of.
Yes, exactly, yeah. So after this, I think we just go into, this is our, if we had any questions about FAR calcs or zoning law calcs, as you can see here, the red is the existing house, and you know, we're pushing way back. So from that, kind of like straddled out, and also the parking, we've moved to the other side. Because basically the house to the south is so close to the lot, we want to push our house as far away from them as possible, for personal and for them. And we put the driveway there, and so we're mirroring those two functions. It works the best we can, this lot. And yeah, we have a little green area for a slight, small area of lawn, but apart from that, everything else can be natural, native, and low maintenance. This is our landscape designer. This is either his planting plan for the wetland area that was approved by the Wetlands Commission. And these are 4 plans. So here's the underneath the house. If you want staircase up at the front, we have to, to comply with 4 parking spaces. We needed to use space under the house. For 2, we got a variance for, and the next slide is first floor level. So again, to go back to the design, the idea was on the right hand side for the stairs is 2-story, and then the left is a 1-story component, so we can get greater ceiling heights because of the limit with the property. And so it's kind of just split level if you want. And so you come in the center, and then the great room is on the left that has 12-foot ceilings. The remainder of the house is 10-6 at this level. And then there's a break across to the screened porch, which is on the top of the page, overlooking the pool area. The next slide just is the 3 bedrooms on the upper floor, mainly oriented to the west. And the corridor has the clear-story window to the east. And the roof plan. I think I've covered everything I wanted to cover. These are elevations in case you again wanted to talk a little bit more about the details or anything like that. But sections for the property. But I'll open up for questions. Thank you for your consideration.
It's a very comprehensive presentation, very helpful. Yeah.
I'd like to make a comment. I love the exuberance of the west elevation. It just seems more cheerful, and maybe people will think there's too much light. And I know you've worked really hard on the east elevation, but if there could be some relief on that, I that's my feeling. That the west elevation is cheerful, exuberant, happy, and the east elevation, to me, is too severe. That's all I'm going to say.
Would you consider adding slats to the east elevation windows like you've done on the west?
Yes, yes. Make it more, tart it up. Make it.
A little bit.
No, I absolutely take that. We definitely take that consideration. The overall design concept of the house was it's very certainly there's a monolithic quality to it that maybe you're responding to, and
That's it. That's what I'm saying.
But yeah, and that is one of the design ideas behind the house. So
I understand. I understand.
So I understand, but that's what we absolutely can look at. Flower
I think
pots. We do have the flower pots, so basically inside each one.
Okay.
I know part of
Window
making
boxes.
monolithic and sort of disappear is to make the sort of the dark tones.
Yes.
But that does showcase sort of the mass over the sort of surface elements, which is very serious architecture, but it may contrast with the puffy clouds and bright blue skies that people come here for.
Yeah, well.
I mean, in the south elevation where there is that break and there is that breathing room, I mean, that's a 10 out of 10 for me.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I actually, and I think that that's definitely worth considering. Yeah, we did some studies with breaking it up. I think that yes, I mean it's strong and
Yes.
There is a if you can see it in the bottom right hand corner, there is a floating plane in front of the staircase that is actually set at the sill height.
Yeah.
Of the facade, so the 5 windows read as 5 squares.
Yeah.
Which I guess maybe it's perhaps, maybe too strong, but absolutely we can.
I think it feels a little industrial on the side, you know, so I.
All the elevations have relief, you know? I
Yeah.
mean, I know it's beautiful, the 5 and the compositionally it works with the, you know, bulwark behind and everything, but I think what the review board would like is something a little more cheerful. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I mean, we have, my client is here and, we can have a discussion, we can have a sidebar afterwards. I don't really wanna make any changes.
It's very cool. It's very cool. I get it.
I mean, can you expand specifically on what you think is cheerful?
Well, the west elevation is cheerful. It has more relief.
Do you think
Dimension.
would cheerful come from landscape, or you're specifically referring to the architecture?
I'm referring to the architecture.
Sir, would you kindly introduce yourself?
Oh, sorry, I'm Mark Salzman, I'm the owner's
You should
representative.
come up here and speak.
Oh, sorry,
Thank
I'm done speaking, but sorry.
Yes, and I never introduced myself, I'm David Masker.
Could you show the west elevation?
Keep going. This one.
There.
It's the most glazed elevation.
But that wouldn't be accepted for other reasons on the east elevation.
I know, but
There are lots to go.
to modify, you know, just to kind of, I don't know, what does everyone think? I mean, am I?
I think,
I'm the homeowner.
Yeah.
I mean, the symmetry of the front is what I like about it, you know?
Of course.
The equal windows and that the wall at the stairs that then makes the middle door an equal size as the other windows is like what we really like.
it becomes very distinguished.
Yeah.
And sometimes it makes something invisible, one to make it dark enough to disappear, but to make it more commonly palatable, which I know isn't what you want when you finally get
a
to see some there. Yeah.
So I think there's, you know, there's a monolithic quality to the siding, but I think, you know, there's a house across the street, which I think is very successful, the Bates Massey house. That has basically blank facades with almost nothing, but they.
Well, the spacing has more variegation of the mass.
Yeah, so maybe
House
there's,
has
maybe
not
if
sold.
we.
Yeah,
develop
that's a
That
spec
house
house
has
that
not
has
been
been
sold in 2 years.
very unsuccessful, actually.
It's sold like 3
I
times.
mean,
Yeah.
architecturally, I'm saying, not whether it's shell or not, yes, I got that.
I mean, you've outlined the grid on the west elevation. That gives you some relief. You see what I mean?
Again, this with the dark tone, there's sort of that very natural variegation, which again.
Yeah.
Is effective in the monolithic nature of it,
Yes.
but does make it a stronger, more uniform and celebrates the mass over the.
So, yeah, what I was going is maybe if we change the yelling, maybe on siding, maybe there was like variation. Board width, wheels or something that like a line or, at a certain height that changes, with that house across the street. Whether or not it has this sort of decal on the facade, it's like changes or something.
Yeah.
And I think that helps.
I think something like that with the bulkhead or the bulkhead and everything else and the stairs going up.
Yeah.
Would really break it up a lot.
Yeah. That's a good point. Thank you.
I think for me, just, I'd love to hear from any of you, the owner, designer. What about the property, the house, the design? It feels like Sagaponack to you.
Well, you know, Sagaponack is, it's an agricultural area originally, but it's also beach property. We're relatively close to the beach. And there's a component of this house that we want to celebrate that. And it has, in my mind, it evokes some of the classic houses from out east that have, you know, maybe, you know, not Norman Jaffe, but like that style of house, and monolithic houses from maybe the 60s and 70s. That it has components of that. It's a very strong linear line. It does float and cantilever above this undulating dune type structure. So it has a sort of strength in that image that to me speaks, beach. This is even though it's not on the beach, it is part of it. I feel like it's part of the beach community, Seascape Lane. It's where we have the water front and the back of the house and kayak to the beach and stuff like that. So it has that sort of connection. So that to me, that's what we went for in terms of like tying it into what is Sagaponic. And that again, similar to the houses across the street, the modern houses that look beachy. So yeah, that's.
Yeah. Well, I've been coming here since I was 12, so I'm not that old, so yeah, so I just think we left it really natural, but at the same time, yes, there is, a ton of great architecture on the East End, and modern architecture that's been around for a long time. So I think we try to keep it as natural as possible. I feel like it's still like beachy and but at the same time it's I got tired of looking at cedar houses on our street is full of kind of similar the housing, the siding on that street is kind of similar. So we wanted something different that would be interesting.
When you say cedar, you mean the color?
Yeah, just like, well, the one across the street is like red,
Like gray.
yeah, there's just a lot of people letting it go gray. And I don't know, that seemed like too much of a 80s style, if it would be gray. So I think the black made it more interesting and different and something new, a little, fresher than everything else that we've seen on the street. But, the lot is pretty surrounded by wetlands, and I feel like we left it, there's very little grass. It's gonna be mostly natural.
Yeah.
Plantings.
And we did a wooden deck, not, we didn't want the house to feel too, slick. Some sort of scaffolding back or something. Also breaking up the windows in the back to not make it feel like it's just like this big glass wall, which you see a lot of. Common really, just other than like that, those seem less beachy to me than anything else. They're very much just wall of glass. It's all about the view. We obviously care about our view here. This is a beautiful site. It has sunset views from the upper floors over a huge property, like a 33-acre property, which is on Bridge Lane. And but yeah, it's a beach house. I mean, I think that we wanted to feel a little bit like a beach house. So
I think, in an effort to make it feel modern, clean, and different, I think that it's a very austere home. And, I think that the darkness of it and the flatness of it, I think both of those things together, maybe if there's some way we can soften either in color or texture or plain, I think maybe would help these sort of, and I know you're using the word strong, but I think without any landscaping in the front to soften the lines, I think something might have to give a little bit there.
Sure, no, I understand the process. We didn't show an edge here, and we kind of want to get your feedback on that. Most of the houses on the street have edge along property line. That would, of course, like if we grew even a 6-foot high hedge here, would mitigate substantially actually seeing the house from the street.
It's not that I want to recommend a hedge. I actually think that
No.
closes it down even more.
Yeah,
And
we
what
do
we
restfully
want
effective in
to
softening
keep
it.
is this open, welcome feeling about the
Gotcha.
farmland. But I mean, right now I feel, unless I'm in this aerial view, I can't tell where the front door is. And that's okay. I just,
I mean, there is, not to there are like references in agricultural buildings, and I don't really wanna go there, because we have a flat roof house, and it's not really doesn't have agricultural form, but in terms of its monolithic quality, there are a lot of, reference points in agricultural buildings that are monolithic. Again, the windows wouldn't be like this, so it's probably a little bit of a stretch, but I think that there are, long facades, but again.
This is the non-subjective nature of utilitarian, which I think that's what you're trying to do also,
Yes.
having square evenly spaced.
Yeah.
Sort of
And unfortunately, the bulkhead isn't it. It's cool, it's working in the way you've done the grasses, but it's not helping that sort of long wall feeling, you know?
Right, okay, we'll look at some options.
I think also due to that and everything, Megan's facade, that you referenced a bunch of times the glow on top and the clear story and, the sort of way that you perceived it as sort of mitigating a monolithic feeling because the top is sort of to be perceived as all glass. But I think that, especially just on this side, is exactly what I'm a little concerned about, because and I love the modernity of it because I love modern architecture, but I think, but a glass box, right, is not really, especially on the street where you are really, there is, you are close to people looking, different, it's not a really wide street. I mean, so if I'm looking at
No.
it, and when you turn on all the lights, it looks very much like it is a glass box, and I'm just not sure that a glass box is,
You mean the clear story?
But the alternative is a full duplex facade.
no, I know, and I'm not,
Yeah.
but I think it has to, it's accentuated by dark facade and the symmetry. I mean, I understand that I like symmetry, but symmetry of and a lot of open glass that feels like a glass box, like I don't
It
know.
is
Okay,
at
it's
a high level, the windows will start around 5 feet, so it's not like it's. We did
They're all louvered
Maybe
and set back. It kind of looks like a tea house on the top. when
maybe we
it's-
can flip that to the rendering.
Yeah.
Of that front facade.
The night rendering towards the end.
And are the windows, the clamps right up to the ceiling, or is there
They're right up to the ceiling.
another reflective ceiling on that one?
Wood ceiling.
But but with
Up the front.
recessed lighting or?
There's a cove light.
Okay.
Thank you.
The light, the ceilings.
So no hotspots from looking up at the clear. Okay.
So
Other than
we
How
have,
many feet, just to get a visual on the front, how many feet are the square?
they're like 7.5 feet square. So,
And then the second floor?
they're basically 8 feet wide by 30 inches tall, so.
There's a couple.
2.5 by 8.
And that's the other one.
More horizontal than.
They're horizontal, and they have horizontal, and they are operable. We're using for natural ventilation in the house to,
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't
To,
really see that as much until.
so we can open those windows and open the doors at the back and create cross ventilation inlets. So. The windows at the front are fixed with the exception of the front door. And they are, they're squares and they're deep set and it is a major design feature of the house.
I love that they're deep set and I
Yeah.
love the window boxes.
Yeah,
I love also the bridge.
I love the bridge.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. I had a question about the two white on, maybe it's the north side. I think there are two white
AC
electrical.
units, yeah. We could put screening on them.
That would be great. Not that I can recommend landscaping per se, but it, like white against the black, maybe, I think.
Yeah. I think that they probably should get slats.
Maybe you should point out how not visible this is in reality.
Maybe that's true.
It is not visible, but
I'd still put
you know what I mean, right?
You would too.
Yeah.
Just slat.
It's a nice tactic, so means you're not hiding anything
I mean,
else.
it makes me, well, it looks more like the home.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we could also add trees in the front yard if that would help.
Yeah. I don't think we can put trees in the
What's that?
Okay.
It'll be real.
Yeah, fake trees, no.
The pink flamingos will go there.
Palm trees.
And that's fun.
Big palm
Couple
trees. All
lawn gnomes and it'd be good.
right, well, thank you. I appreciate it. Very
Thank you so
thorough,
much. Yeah.
thoughtful presentation.
Appreciate it.
All right, so I'd like to adjourn this for August.
So should we recap where,
If you wanna, yeah.
maybe exploring a slightly lighter or more variegated natural palette?
Yeah.
Just even one that would express a wood grain a little more, or if there was a, nickel space between the slats, that you'd see the darkness.
We do have a nickel space, but it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
And we do,
Yes, I literally think that with everything you have going for the front already, with the bulkhead could be,
there's a lot of
yeah.
detail that we discussed.
I guess it's,
It's almost had a like.
yeah.
Excuse me, can you just keep it down, because we still have somebody up here presenting, thank you.
We're almost done.
Do you think the constraints of the property helped you end up with this successful plan? Like if you had,
I think so. I think that the having this very limited height, sort of forces this solution
yeah,
of the level, 1 story and the 2 story, and then the back of the effect of like setting the 2nd story back also helped. It wasn't a period, we didn't have a pyramid law issue with the house, but it just seemed to have a clear design ethos going to the back of the house. We wanted to change it to more glass to capture the view. So yeah, I do
I think with the split level and the indoor outdoor spaces, it's gonna.
Yeah, and it's fine if you wanted to screen in the porch.
Yeah.
Um,
Be a good time there.
yeah, yes, so it's very important. So we have to, became a central point of the design and thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this for August.
Second,
All in favor?
Remind us of the date.
Aye.
26th, I think.
26th of August?
Yes. No.
Right. Okay.
That's not even a question.
Yeah. Funny. Thank you. Felt like you're gonna see it in your own section. Is this fun?
Yes, yeah. Check my last one.
David, we get to. So maybe. Just. We can do the official.
And do I need to do this?
No.
Just waiting for Alicia. Thank you. Thank you for taking us to the beach. Okay, it's just here. We're gonna
Thank you.
discuss 35 Potato Road.
Good afternoon, nice to appear before you folks as always. My name is John Bennett, Bennett Weed, Southampton. We're here for the demolition and a new construction on 35 Spud. So why don't I just introduce everyone who's here, and then we'll say a few things about demolition. Mark Rappel and Dear Namavati from Leroy Street are here. Melissa Dedrich from Comic Environmental, Ed Hollander and Valley Briggs from Hollander Design. So have it as two separate matters. So before proceeding to the new construction, at the risk of being presumptuous, I don't think that the demolition of this should cause any issue. It's a mid-70s house, later later 80s construction. I don't see it on any historic list, any state historic list. It doesn't have the sort of under the interior secretary's guidelines or any local or state law that would suggest any sort of historic preservation. There's no historic personages attached to it, or any event or any architect who was sort of avant-garde.
Who was the architect?
Where's
Michael Graves one.
Hope Morgan Clark Russell. Princeton, New Jersey. So
Seemed very rough.
what I
Just wanna make sure you were done.
Blind and things and blind and words.
Does anyone have any opposition to this being demolished? Yeah. Nope. I'll make a motion to demolish the house. Sounds so scary, but I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, it needs to happen, so. Anyone second? Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Should I move on to the?
Sign some.
Ross.
Thank you.
No, I always do it, but it's in my car. Exactly. Not too far off. I have a few surfboards and that's me.
Oh, not proceeding. I'll be very brief in my introduction, of course, we'll introduce the team before, but from a point of view of what I think typically architectural reviewers like to look at, which is impact on the neighborhood. This has an approval from the zoning board of appeals and was initially reviewed by the trustees. And I did describe it, at least in my practice, years, as sort of a unicorn. Something that almost never happens. We actually have a house that is proposed that is 7.3 feet lower than the existing house.
That's with the FEMA raise?
Yep.
We're an excellent.
Yeah, or an excellent. Okay, so thank you. And 750 square feet smaller principal residence from the existing house. So I think in terms of impact on the surrounding neighbors, just impact on the public. It is I think this was. I'll, it's not for you, board. Why? Thank you. Introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Veer Nanavati from the OSP Studio. Walk you through the presentation where we've kind of, we've got all the views that I think you have paper copies of as well. But I'd like to start by talking a little bit about our bigger picture architectural goals, both for the project and explain like how we hope to achieve them. So in our studio, our aims, our objectives are to build sensitive work that's enduring, that will, it understands its context, respects it, and that's built intelligently and robustly. So in this project in particular, we've been interested, of course, in the rich context of Potato Road and of this little microcosm right here, and finding and developing this kind of vernacular that suits this, sagaphonic, beachy, open kind of, architecture, and also borrows a little bit, or at least acknowledges local building traditions and, the roots of, our craft. We want the building to be in harmony with its extraordinary natural beauty. We want it, like I said, to be built robustly. We want this house to last for a few generations, even though it's exposed, to the Atlantic Oceans. Next slide. So this is just, of course, showing, that first slide is just showing the location of the house, which it's on Potato Road, which is a private road that dead ends into the last property. It comes off Daniels Lane. So we work closely with Peconic Environmental, John Bennett's office, and Hollander Design on both the siting of the house and the landscaping, and I hope you see all of that as I go through the presentation. So the proposed house is actually set back further from the beach. You can see the outline in white, which brings it into line with its immediate neighbors. It also, has the pool and deck and the public activities on the south side, so away from the street for privacy. The pool is roughly in the same location on the site, which actually maybe we go to the next slide. So this is showing where the pool is. This is the proposed house, an aerial of the proposed house. We propose to retain and augment the planting between the properties, and there are currently 2 points of access and a drop off, like a driveway that goes through the site. We're proposing to replace that with a small drop off and parking at the northeast corner of the site and a single point of entry off Potato. Also, just staying on the slide for a second, I want to talk a little bit about the massing and the form of the building. You can see that the second floor is smaller than the ground floor, which we think helps, it sets it back, it makes it feel smaller when you look at it from the road, from eye level. The first floor roofs and terraces are planted, which we think also softens the architecture. The glazing, which we'll of course get into later on at the second floor, is minimized. Also, just a point of comparison with the existing house, we're actually proposing almost 147 or 146, square feet less glazing on the south side of the building, above the first floor. So, which is the part that you see the most from the beach. But we'll get into that in those coming slides. Another small, it's a very subtle move, and we'll show it to you in the views as well. The northeast side of the house is kind of subtly angled. And what that does is when you're approaching it along Potato Road, it's a slightly deferential move to the person approaching it. It's, it scales it down very slightly, and it also presents a face to someone coming from that side. The mass of the second floor is also eroded on both sides, the north and south. There is little kind of outdoor garden spaces. So they both create interest and they break up the mass of the house when you look at it from the street. Overall, we think that the geometry and massing kind of softens the building in relation to the landscape, the surrounding. Next slide, please. This slide just shows you where we took the views from. So we took 4 on Potato Road. and 4 from the beach. One of the views from the beach is actually, you can see that it's G, the last view. It's closest to the building, actually on the property. So, but we just wanted to show that to you as well. So starting with the next slide, this is the view on Potato as you approach the house. You can see, if you go back for 1 second, you can see, I'm just going to point it out on the screen. You can see the neighboring house at 25 Potato here, and that's the existing 3-story, the top of the 3rd floor of the existing house. And then if you go to the next. So this is the proposed condition. Even though the house is closer to the road, because it needs to, move away from the beach, it's like John said, it's about 7.5 feet almost shorter than the existing house. So you don't see it in this view. The next view shows it without any planting. That dashed white outline is supposed to kind of indicate the profile of the outline of the vegetation. Next view is at night, and then the next is showing it without vegetation again, so you get a clear sense of what the windows would look like. The next view is, this is you're standing on the corner of the property, that's the existing driveway, the 3-story house. One of the results of the 3-story house is that the top windows, the highest windows in the existing house, are about 7.5 feet or more, I think, higher than what we're proposing as well. Next slide. This shows the proposed house. So you can see some of the moves that I mentioned earlier, that slight angle. You can start seeing the materiality of the house. And the next view shows it without planting. Next. So at night, and then the next view is without planting at night. The next view is, this is roughly in the center of Potato Road looking south. You can see the existing house. This is that second point of access. So if you go to the next slide, we're actually proposing to fill in the vegetation. And in the next slide, without the vegetation. I'm just going to pause on this slide for a minute to just talk about a couple of things, because you're starting to see the architectural language of the house more clearly, and the detailing that we've developed. So the endeavor is to kind of create this low slung building that's emphasizing horizontal planes, the expression of the floor plates. The second floor mass, as I said, is smaller than the first floor, and it's eroded. You can see that garden space. Those larger openings. The north facade, which is facing the road, is more solid than the south facade, which we will show you subsequently. And the few locations on this facade where we have large glazing, we've taken care to align it with the openings on the south side. So what we're hoping is that if you can see through the bushes and the shrubs and you get a glimpse through the house, you'll actually see the ocean rather than just seeing into like a sheetrock box. So that's something we're excited about. And then you can also start seeing how the curved corners throughout help soften the architecture. And they kind of give the house this nestling quality, like it's been dropped into the landscape. And the wide fascia, that's another thing to point out. That's another tool that's helped us minimize the glazing a little bit. It absorbs the floor buildup, the sill, and the drops with the ceiling. The material palette I'll talk to you about at the end of the presentation. We have some samples here as well, some mock-ups. But the second floor, as you can see, is primarily wood, which we think both lightens it in contrast with the ground floor, but also balances this overall composition. The ground floor walls are supposed to feel like they're rising out of the sand, and that's why that little jar of sand on your table. Because we literally took that back to our office and matched the stone and the mortar to that. We took it quite seriously. The next slide is the view. This is the same view at night, and then the next slide is without the vegetation. This is the corner view, so you're standing at the north west corner looking southeast. Next slide the vegetation will remain roughly, and this is it without the vegetation. So again, you're seeing in this view how much the second floor is stepped back, and it kind of diminishes the mass from this side. And the next one is the same view at night, and the same view without planting. The next 4 views are from the beach. They show it shows the existing house, which like we said before, it's 3 stories. So you're going to see in the next slide, we've retained the, if you can go, yeah, thank you. We've retained the outline of the existing house, which is very effective in showing how much this is diminished and pushed back from the beach, and also how it fits better in the context with its immediate neighbors. In the next slide, you also start seeing these, again, those floor plates, that strong expression, they're overhanging, they're shading the building, both the glazing and the facade itself. This is the same view at night. The next slide, this is directly south of the house looking north. We've already mentioned a couple of times that the existing house has more glazing above the first floor than what we're proposing. And this was partly a result of the existing houses, we call it an upside down house. All the living spaces were actually on the second floor and the bedrooms were on the lower floor. We're reversing that. We're going back to a more traditional house, keeping the bedrooms on the second floor, which allows us, next slide, it allows us to make the second floor quite solid. We obviously want to preserve some of the amazing views to the ocean from the bedrooms. And then again, you can see that dashed outline of the existing house. Next slide, just without the dashed outline. And also, a thing to point out is that even though the first floor is, got more glass than the second floor, it's actually hidden by the dune and the dune vegetation. Next slide. So this is that view standing on the property as if you're kind of walking up to the house from the beach, just at the foot of the dune. That's the existing access, which will remain in roughly the same location, exactly the same location. And you can also see like how the current house was almost looming, especially, and it was an effect that was kind of more pronounced as you walk towards it. Next.
It's gonna need to leave shortly, so if there's anything you want to kind of loop them in on.
Right, Ed, is there anything you want to talk about the planting, or do we have any questions about the planting specifically?
Give me 30 seconds. My name is Ed Hollander from Hollywood Design Landscape Architects. I think most important is the fact that we want to develop a plant palette of what we would refer to as native adaptive plantings that will live in this location, that will live well and will require a little bit of maintenance. This is inherently a beach house. So our primary plants are beach grass and bayberry and beach rose and beach plum, everything that almost starts with the word beach. There's a lot of Poilosa juniper on the site right now, which is a very effective salt tolerant evergreen. We will reinforce with more of that on both the east and the west sides, as well as with separation from Potato Road. But it's not a landscaped property, if you will, as much as one that is really designed to tie into the native landscapes that make this area so special.
Thank you. Thank you. That was actually perfect. I can run you through the remaining slides. This is that same view we were looking at night. This is the last view showing again the existing house. Next, again, you can faintly see that outline, and this is where it's very dramatically obvious how it kind of comes into alignment with the other houses. In the context, and you can also see how that second floor it gets pretty solid. The last view is the same view at night, and then this is our material palette. So yeah, see it. Yeah, see it closer. Yeah. So this is the fascia, this is the mortar in between the stones, and then the stones themselves. And like I said, this is the the inspiration has been literally the beach sand.
And the outfit.
And yeah, so yes. I was thinking when the last person was presenting, I'm dressed like my house, he was dressed like. And this is.
That's pretty funny.
Yes.
Very true.
And the last for the wood.
Right.
There's wood.
All right, and then the windows at the bottom left one, which is this like kind of like it's called faded steel, but it's almost like a faded bronze color, I would say. Yeah, this is for the second floor. We're doing it without the battens, but this is the wood that we're using.
Can I see a portion of sand by the pool?
Yes.
Yeah.
I meant to bring that up. What happens back there? Are there chairs in there? Is it just like
It was
grasses?
It was the idea, but I was we were kind of saying is we should be celebrating the beach. And you know, there's nothing more fun. We did a house on Flying Point Road, which was with Marty Shea, it was all native, and all we did was we had, you know, the idea of not building around a pool, but having sand, having beach. I mean, there's kind of a chicness to that as well as a practicality.
Also, we have a rain roof design has perforated pipes going through there, so the rainwater runoff is going up in it too.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Is there a limit to those? To
No.
those elements?
You can name them. This is the mock-up of the ground floor, the stone, we can call it the rubble stone mock-up.
Rubble stone.
Rubble stone mock-up, and that's the wood siding.
Okay, and then is that cedar?
No, it's a thermally modified pine, I believe. I think we're looking at a coir.
And then the top piece to this is what?
That's the fascia.
But is it cement?
It will be a stucco, some cementitious stucco.
And is there a particular color?
Yes, it's going to actually be a shade or two darker, but again, the sand is what we're going for. Sand color.
And the wood this is more
That's
the
more
example of what it looks
representative,
like,
yeah.
okay,
I
so
think
it doesn't have the
Yeah,
battens
it
on it.
exactly.
Okay, and the color is more of this,
Yeah, in the renderings, we try to show like our ideal
Right.
colors, and then we're working with mock-ups to get there. But yeah, we're looking for like this kind of warm, sandy palette.
right,
And the stone panels are fixed, correct?
The stone panels are good, yeah. No windows, panel.
That's like.
Yeah.
Do you have a view of the sides?
We do not have a view of the sides, but there are architectural elevations in the architectural drawings. Again, I didn't talk about it too much because it wasn't in the presentation, but we're again reducing the amount of glazing to the east and west.
Thank you.
As compared to the existing house, I think it's towards the end. Yeah. If you zoom. So this elevation, second from the top, is the west elevation. You can see a stair going up to the exterior deck. You see that deep overhang on the south side, shade of the glass. Yeah. And to that, that second floor mass is set way back. It's like 20 odd feet back. Yeah, and the east is at the bottom, where you can kind of see the same thing. It's actually, the solid stone mass, the big cantilever on the south side, and the second floor, which is really
And the stucco on the
Fascia, we're calling it. fascia,
bottom
yeah.
part, what is the, just like, what is the?
Height?
Yeah, the
It's
heightness,
4 feet,
4 feet,
2.5 at the top.
and
on the
2.5 at
second
the top and then 4 feet.
And it's got a stone calf on it, which will be the same stone as the rubble in the wall below.
Do you know, what was the glazing on the south side of the previous house?
The total that
On the south side,
Second, so let me just speak.
thank you. I know you said it was less, I just was,
So we were focused on the second floor, so the first floor and above, so we were, I think
Okay.
overall, existing, on the south side, you're asking, right?
yeah,
It's an increase in absolute terms overall,
by how much?
about 250 square feet. And above the first floor, so the second floor and the third floor are reducing by 146 square feet. So we kind of rebalanced it.
And I think this was bedrooms.
Yeah, that was enough.
It definitely helps it set farther back, and, I agree, the balance is important, it's just curious. Does anyone have, do you want to finish any more? Comments?
No, I was kind of done with my question, I'm standing in case you have any questions.
Thank you. Does anyone have any initial comments or?
It's beautiful. It hugs the landscape nicely.
I agree, I appreciate it. It's more diminutive than the prior home, and definitely works more with the vernacular of the sand, the architecture nearby.
I think the curve is interesting.
Yeah.
Really well executed.
And it has a lot of, some of the elements of the other house down the road, so I don't know, different, but
His and hers.
yes. I'll take it.
I think it's beautiful, and my question is, Ed Hollander is a landscape designer.
Right.
Did he do the architecture too?
No.
No, Leroy Street Studio was here.
Okay, it's I think the whole thing is beautiful. Really, really beautiful.
And thoughtful to the environment.
Thoughtful and subtle and everything.
And
That sounds like,
have any opposite?
sounds like a motion to vote, like.
Yeah, I
beautiful.
mean, it's beautiful, excellent work that you set out for who gets to live there, so.
Wednesday's going a quarter mile, 3 feet, so.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Thank you. Thanks for letting Ed speak out of turning out.
He always
He's
does a
allowed,
great job.
he is allowed.
Remember this precedent of accepting something first.
I just wanted some man the next one.
You're gonna make a motion on it. 121 Johnson Bob.
Okay. I will make the motion to adjourn, 121 Parsonage Lane, Son of Man LLC. Second, anyone?
Second.
All in favor?
Thanks a lot, thanks for.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I just don't.
We have one game that's left.
I know.
That is great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody's here. A lot of 35 and,
Sure.
121.
He's not here a lot. I've seen him before. And I saw him.
Double check your groceries.
We don't have that.
Oh, no, thanks. I think we're supposed to take hedges and not.
Yeah. I think we're wrong drawing. This is 120 parsonage, son of man.
My apologies. Are you just like, oops, sorry.
That's all right.
Take them back.
I wouldn't have
This is
remembered except for
121,
Son of
so
Man, it's very distinct LLC name.
Right.
Technically trespassing this point.
Yeah.
Well, I went to 121, not 120. I was only skulking around the edges, so. There we go.
Sorry.
Oh, no, yes.
Alright. 426 Hedges Lane. Just give me one. Patents and payment. Please. This.
Good afternoon, Carl Pentecostal, 860 Montauk Highway, Waterloo, New York, for the.
Just give me 1 minute, I would appreciate
your
it.
time.
Thank you.
It's a pretty straightforward application. The subject lot is roughly 1.8 acres or 78,000 square feet. It's in the R120 zoning district. It's created by subdivision, and it is the third of 3 lots located furthest from Hedges Lane of any of the 3. As a result, the location of this proposed gate is over 800 feet from Hedges Lane. Gate is 4 foot, 6 foot with posts and 15 feet 2 inches clearance between the posts. There will be a clear cedar left to wet. There are, I believe you have the design drawings and a picture, which is an example of what the gate would look like for you, but that's pretty much it. It's a straightforward application.
I think the gate design is obviously fine. My concern is with these long gates, there's no turnaround by the gate. So it either asks a truck to back up there or to sort of go use the neighbor's property as an easement. And I'm always concerned for a truck not getting in and backing in to get in line on 27 to go home.
You're saying so a gate, if a neighboring truck was going to one of the neighboring.
Or even your property, no one's home.
Oh, no one's home.
How can they turn around once they're at your space?
There is a turnaround behind the gate, but I see your point. Perhaps. I mean, we're open to input on that.
I think anything that would allow a normal sized truck, like a UPS truck to turn around. Maybe having the gate past the turnaround. I know no one likes to encroach on their property, but.
That could be troublesome. Maybe there's room within the easement to open it up for a turnaround.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's our territory. So
I think it's not really a design element.
It's not a design element, I mean, it is a consideration, our design elements,
But I mean, the design of the gate is perfect. It's because it's on a flag lot and it doesn't need to be 40 feet back, but there is a practicality issue.
I mean, harmonious relationship with the neighborhood is an element that we can.
Right, but my point is, functionality wise, how does asking for easement?
Well, easement's not
not really the most
Or
articulate.
coming up with a
word.
solution to
Yeah,
turn a car around.
some sort of solution so that there is like safe ingress, egress, turning a car around.
Subject to building department? Would you prove it subject to that? And I can talk with John about.
About
Right.
there is any safety.
And if they want a practical permit, it's gonna have to be within inside your.
They don't want
inside
one.
the property.
They don't want one, we were just concerned.
Yeah. And it's a legitimate concern, I mean, those vehicles backing out.
We had last
busy
summer,
roads.
town line, we had like, biker get hit. Unrequited delivery can cause someone to back up pretty aggressively.
I mean, that being said, this is the architecture review board, so that might be really more of a planning board or a building department consideration.
We don't have anything in the code that requires a turnaround, so it would be up to the discretion of the board or to put something in the code to make functionality, truly part of the.
This has come up before.
There's a precedent whether we were encroaching with that precedent.
Right, and there were two neighbors, weren't there, that were trying.
Yeah, they were both fighting for
Gates,
this.
yeah, back to back.
Yeah,
And then you can't, right, and.
and they ended up widening them enough to make.
It's 20 feet wide as it is.
Is there a place to put it a little further into the driveway?
I can speak with the client about relocating. I know.
I mean, even if 10, 15 foot space for a K-turn, like a three-way U or something.
Yeah, that certainly could be, but the design itself, there are no objections. to.
No,
No, it's
design
a good
and,
gate, it's a perfect gate.
yeah, and with the distance and everything, it's 10 out of 10.
So my question to council would be, would we be able to approve it, the design subject to that relocation?
We can definitely do that. I see no reason not to.
Like committee of two, you mean?
In the alternate, well, I was thinking that we could either approve it pending John Woods's, you have to give a building permit for this, correct? We could, subject this to getting a building permit, which is kind of academic in that any structure would require a building permit anyway. Or we could move it to a committee of two, so that if the applicant does want to come back with some sort of alternative, they would just have to go through a committee of two. And not have to come back in front of the full.
We're looking at a solution like this, be in the purview of a committee of two.
I don't see why not. I don't see why not.
Does it open it up for liability if we think a 20 foot?
I mean, we can't require, maybe the word was misused. I heard it thrown out, an easement. We can't really require easements. That's, that's way beyond our.
And the domain, isn't it?
That's beyond our jurisdiction, but if the applicant does feel like they, just for argument's sake, wanted to move the gate up slightly and have some sort of little cutoff or a little piece of gravel that would.
Would that allow for more space?
If we moved it into the property.
Would that be the north or the?
Or is that just elongating the driveway?
Well, if you did that,
there'd be
then-
a little room in the property for turnaround, we have to remove some vegetation. That's there. But that would be. If the board wants us to remove the vegetation, I could see if you would move the gate up a bit.
Where's the gate? On this drawing. It's fine. Where is it?
That,
Here? Can you show me, sir, where the gate is going on this drawing here?
Sure, see that on the green arrow right there? So on this drawing. Right here.
What little is it now?
Right here.
I guess my question is, why do they want the gate with such a long driveway?
Why do they want the gate?
Yes,
Now, by the time you get there, what are you gonna do? You're there. That's my question.
I can jump in on that. So under 249, 245, 49, A7, D2, sorry for the mouthful. Those are our list of criteria to consider for gates. And it is letter H and letter I. Letter I is more on point. Placement at the greatest reasonable setback from the street including evaluation of least visual impact to passerby. So the village generally does discourage driveway gates, particularly on the streets which lead to or comprise the historic district. So it's been codified, our policy is that if there are driveway gates, we'd like them as far up the flagpole as possible, so that the streetscape doesn't just become gates, gates, gates. That's the reasoning behind it.
But I can't think Catherine's asking why does the client need?
I'm asking, why do they want a gate at all?
Privacy, appearance, control over access to their property, as anyone else who wants a gate.
I don't know.
I mean, this board in the past, just for clarity, I know in at least 3, maybe 4 precedent situations, we have approved driveway gates, recognizing explicitly that they were moved back onto the property, that they were not right in the right of way, or they weren't visible to passerby. So that is both codified and that's part of the code. Or I'm sorry, that's codified and that was historically part of our policy in reviewing these things, is that we encourage them to be far up the flag.
I did, I saw that 800 feet upward. And then saw there was no turnout.
This gate is not already built, is it?
No, that's a picture of what they've been doing.
It's a rendering.
No, it was built, I didn't take it away.
Yeah, but it's not there now.
Close, sir.
You're both right, yeah.
Not there. It's gone.
So it was built without permission.
It was built without permission. He retained us, it was removed, after it was removed, and now he's.
And is there a setback, there's no setback for like a gravel turnout on their property, right? It can be right up in there. Yeah, I think it's worth investigating if you can't move it a little further closer to the tree and then just have a turnout right there.
Some little turnout.
Yeah. Which will save them too, because
No, it's
the truck will stop showing up if they get stuck there too.
It's a reasonable request.
Emily, or at least any thoughts? Concerns?
No, I agree with y'all, but we keep running into this problem of it being a long flat lot and how the trucks are gonna turn around.
Okay.
So,
All right, well, I'll make a motion to move this to a committee of 2, pending an extra area for turning around, moving it a little bit farther, deeper into the driveway. I'll make
Would it be possible to approve it subject to a turnaround that building department would be okay with?
Yeah, that's doable also. I mean, we could move it to committee of 2, or if we wanted to make.
Why don't we accept it based on?
You could accept the style, but don't you wanna know where? the
Well, I think based on the building
Yeah.
department approving their turnout, we'll accept it.
Yeah.
I mean, we won't put our judgment on it, but it won't be automatic, he'll tell us and we'll say good.
Oh,
It's up to you.
John, does that sound acceptable?
Sounds fine.
okay. So just so I'm clear, you refer it to John for his review and then you'll adopt that? Or are we approving it today, subject to John's review?
We could do either, really. It's what the board feels comfortable with. We could approve it subject to
It's
A,
an
approval.
extra step for us to know.
Yeah, I mean, John has to approve it no matter what, because a building permit, anything above grade needs a building permit.
The thing about tacit approval for us is we don't know whether we've approved it or not. And we might wanna know if it exists in case something else happens.
we should probably look at it no matter what. It gets approved, where you're gonna do it, where the turnaround's gonna be.
I mean, turnaround is kind of a de minimis thing that the committee of 2 would probably just take a look, say, all right, there's a turnaround there, and rubber stamp it.
Yeah.
If we as a board are okay with the general location, far up the flagpole, the design of it is copacetic. I see no reason having to have Mr. Nakasa come back here for another full meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, I think
we
a
can just
committee
move
of
it to
2
committee of 2.
is wise.
Great,
If applicant, you feel that's acceptable, council.
yeah, that's fine. So we'll do a committee of 2. I'll submit revised drawings showing that turnaround. You guys will approve it and then it'll go to John for a building. Perfect. Sounds fine.
Motion to adjourn this to committee two.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
But then we do have to go there, it's a call box, the game of the length of the truck away from the turnout. So
I didn't go
You
down
gotta-
there either. I was
you
like,
gotta
I'm
see,
coming
yeah.
down there.
That's actually a very reasonable request, and I think that's something we could probably write into the code.
Oh, turnarounds?
So I would
Is
say-
the turnaround space our purview?
No, but that's not also a private flag lot, you're saying it's because really, there's two other, right?
I mean, we're approving,
Isn't that?
it's a safety, it's public safety.
I mean, we are on solid ground because I think that the prong of our test, harmonious relationship with the neighborhood. Including whether a gate or gate post is typical, the second half, if it's not on par, but you could argue for the harmony of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And let's face it, we know it happens all summer long, Amazon guys.
Yeah.
Up and down, up and down.
Protecting the.
And then it'll
confined-
go to the
irrelevant.
neighbor's house and then they're gonna want a gate, and then the next person will want a gate.
Yeah.
It's just,
And the
You can say you're
pool eye-
protecting to the convivial nature of Sagapon, that can bike around.
it would be better
Crazy.
if they all got together and said, let's just put it up here. And we're all gonna pay for it, and we'll have one gate for that whole flag lot.
I mean, that's one thing, but I know that the code and the ethos used to be that we didn't want gates right up on the street.
Oh, so now we're going to decide who's going to be on the committee of two. Anyone volunteer?
Well, speaking of.
I will,
All right, Emily.
I'll volunteer.
All right, I'll do it with Emily, unless you want to. Okay, I'll do it with Emily.
Okay.
Emily and
I'm
me,
happy to
we'll do
go.
the committee of two. And we're gonna adjourn the meeting.
Motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. the
I will
meeting.
second that motion to adjourn the meeting.
All in favor?
All in
We are all in
favor.
favor.
Vote for campaign, that went very well.
That was.
Was not an easy,
Are we on?
maiden love.